Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is the legendary Josh Finney.
I'm here.
We are both here, sort of.
It's been a very long day today, but I'm here. I'm excited to talk about video games.
Yep. I am also excited to talk about video games, Josh. Let me tell you about this weekend, though, man. It was, this weekend was very strange.
Yeah.
My wife took my daughter to a show on Saturday and took my son to my nephew's house. So I had Saturday all to myself. And then Sunday, I had most of the day to myself. It was very
last
strange.
time that happened?
About 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it was kind of nice. I didn't really know what to do with myself. But, yeah. But there are other things that were super stressful, but that's okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? How are you? How was your weekend?
Stressful.
Yeah,
trying to get all our ducks in a row regarding some medical and financial bills. So that's always fun to deal with. That's not at all a source of stress in my life. It's been one thing after another, it seemed, but it has been overall. It's been a good week, good weekend. Started playing with the new in my Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Started moving our characters over to 5.5e, the new book that just came out. So that was fun. And then I also started Prince of Persia this weekend. Finally,
yeah. How's that?
I'm enjoying it. I got through like the first really big boss, I think. I have like the bow and everything now. Maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours in. Really enjoying it. I like a good Metroidvania, and this is one I've been meaning to get to for a while. Was hoping to get to it earlier this year, and it's that I just took a lot of time off from playing games. So now I'm wanting to get back into them, get playing this one at least, because starting at the beginning of October, all of my free gaming time is disappearing.
Yeah.
I'm still working through Star Wars Outlaws. Still a fun game, but I did hit a game-breaking bug that required me to go back like a full hour in the game in order to undo. Which was maddening because I didn't have a more recent save. So I had to go back to the last autosave I had before that area, and that was frustrating because it was in the middle of a very stealthy part of a mission. No idea why that was the last autosave I had, but here we are. I died in an area that is specifically designed for a story mission, and because I misjumped something, it spawned me at that location, but outside because this was underground, and there was no way to get back in there.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to rewind everything, go through all the cutscenes and all the dialogue that I had already hit. And that was very frustrating. I hit that bug twice.
Ooh.
Yeah, I hit that bug twice. Once was towards the very end of the mission, and it was infuriating. So, yeah, Star Wars Outlaws, good game. I'm starting to hit the buggier parts now, though, because I've been saying, for like a month now, like, oh, I don't see what everybody was talking about with the bugs. Yeah, I'm starting to get a lot more of them now. The speeder act's very erratic whenever you call it, which drives me up a fucking wall.
Yeah.
It's a good game. Like, it's a solid game, but I can't in good conscience be like, yeah, this is any more than like an 8 out of 10 on my scale. And that's at the very most, it's an 8 out of 10. It's like pretty much there because I really love the characters.
Yeah.
So that's always a little frustrating, but again, like we talked about, I think Jeff really nailed it. Jeff Grubb really nailed it when he was talking about it, saying it kind of harkens back to the campy licensed games that we all used to love when we were younger.
Yeah.
feels very in that vein. So that's cool. Like I said, Prince of Persia's great. Um, I was really hoping to get to the Persona DLC before Metaphor comes out in 2-3 weeks, but I don't think that's going to happen because Diablo's expansion comes out, and so does a new episode for Destiny. So I've got a lot of stuff between now and I still haven't started Astrobot.
Mm.
Zelda's getting skipped at this point. I have no time for it. Zelda might get played in like December.
Yeah. I man, I just haven't had any time. I was having this conversation with a bunch of people this past week. I'm like, I gotta start we gotta find some people to do some of this stuff, or we just can't do it because I can't do it. Good times though. But I also played a game with a game breaking, or not a game breaking bug, but it broke the game for me. So, and I'm not gonna go back to it. So,
In Outlaws?
no.
Oh,
The Plucky Squire, John.
ah,
I've been playing it on their Nintendo Switch, and about 45 minutes into the game, there's this cat that you have to feed some treats, and I do a little puzzle. Right, there's a little puzzle. Spoilers, I guess, for the beginning of the Plucky Squire. I drag these little cat treats over because the cat is hiding a key in its stomach because it's a very large cat, and I feed the cat. The key pops out. I get stuck in the kind of the box that the cat is kind of, programmed in, and I can't get out of it. And I had to restart the game twice, and I hit that bug 3 times, and I'm like, I'm done. Can't play it. I don't want to do this. I don't have time for this. So that sucks.
yeah.
But
I've held off on Plucky Squire for right now. It's not that I don't want to play it. It's just I kind of have to prioritize my time. That'll be one that I'm hoping to get to later this year. That and Animal Well are both on my list to get to this fall. But man, October is so stacked. Like the first half of October is really stacked for me, and then at the end of the month you've got Black Ops 6, you've got Life is Strange, and then in November Mario and Luigi comes out, and Stalker 2 comes out, Flight Sim is out, and even into December we've got Indiana Jones. So I truthfully just, I guess, like maybe early November is when I'm going to try to bang out things like Plucky Squire and Animal Well. I don't know. Yeah. At this point, I'm just hoping to get like deep enough in these games that God, there's a Starfield expansion dropping in like 6 days.
Yeah, at this point, you just got to pick and choose.
Yeah,
things are going to get missed.
There's a lot of things that are going to get missed, and that's partially because I played so many massive games earlier in the year. Both Persona and Final Fantasy took probably a solid 80 plus hours from me each. So that, in addition to a massive Destiny expansion this summer, that's where a lot of my gaming time for the first half of the year went. Oh my God, I forgot about Dragon Age. Dragon Age is also coming out. Dragon Age is getting prioritized. Those previews are looking awesome. The amount of people I trust who went and played that game and came away, who were just as skeptical as I was after that first trailer, who came away saying this is a bona fide Game of the Year candidate if it releases polished, has kind of blown my mind. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to play this. I had a really hard time getting into the older Dragon Age games, both Origins and Inquisition. I had a hard time getting into those, but I'm hoping that now that I'm way more into fantasy stuff than I was then, that maybe this one will click with me. Just God, there's so many. Like, Metaphor's gonna be so fucking long. Diablo's gonna be long. Dragon Age is long. Like, anyone who says that there is nothing to play just plays nothing other than free to play games. I'm convinced.
And And then there's a state of play tomorrow. That's
Okay, so by the time y'all are listening to this, the state of play is going to be just a few hours away. I have zero expectations for this.
But Josh, Horizon Zero Dawn remastered for the PlayStation 5.
Okay, unironically, I had a friend who asked me for my predictions for it, and I says I don't know, but there's probably going to be like little to nothing for first party, just based off stuff that people like Jeff Grubb have
Yeah.
said. And he was like, "Well, they're going to have his Horizon Zero Dawn remastered and Lego Horizon and probably Days Gone remastered." And I was like, "None of that moves a needle for me, honestly. Like, why are we still remastering games that don't need it?"
Right.
I
Yeah,
adore Until Dawn, and I'm skipping the remaster
I wish
next week.
I wish they would put all this remastering effort into like PS3 generation collections or like PS2 collections that like couldn't be ported over, like I don't know, Infamous, God of War, the even stuff like Resistance and Killzone. Like I wish they were putting that remaster efforts into those things that people are kind of asking for. I don't know, man. I don't understand what this is going on. And I know like
Yeah.
I know that there is some sort of, whether it's intentional or not, bias towards Horizon because Herman Holst is the co-CEO now, and
Yeah.
like that's a franchise that they very clearly want to be something.
I mean, that series sells really good. Don't get me wrong. Like
I know,
both Zero Dawn and Forbidden West have sold what 10, 12 million
15
copies.
plus at least.
So the first one I know for sure sold 15 plus. I don't know if we've gotten exact numbers on. I'm going to do some
Well,
looking real quick.
the thing with Forbidden West is you got to remember that was a bundle game for a while, and they put it on PlayStation Plus to test the waters on how first party games would go shortly after.
As of as of May 2023, it has sold 8.4 million units. That is the latest I can find on it. So
Yeah.
it's crossed 10 million.
Yeah. And so that's another game. I, as much as I love the first one, I have not touched the second one, and I don't know, man. I gotta find time. I gotta make time to do things because it's just kind of my schedule is full, man. I gotta
I
tell
will
you.
say it topped out on consoles, but I forgot that it came to PC, and it went from not even being in the top 100 on the Circana chart to being in the top 10 when it released. So yeah, that it's definitely crossed well over 10 million at this point. But that's fine. Right. I mean, like that's a whole audience that they've learned. Ghost of Tsushima did the same thing. You know, we saw it with Ghost of Tsushima, we saw it with The Last of Us. Like we see it with every PlayStation game that comes to Steam.
Yeah.
You know, you see those sharp increases, and I don't know what you're going to show, because I would imagine Death Stranding 2 would be the obvious choice, considering we had that huge debut for it earlier in the year. Was it earlier this year that we saw that for the first time?
It was. I think it was at the Game Awards last year.
No, we had we had a big thing at a State of Play at some point, because they announced that film initiative afterwards with
Yeah, you're
Kojima.
right.
I'm trying to remember, because we got the title reveal and everything else. January 2024 is when we saw it earlier this year. So
it must have been that first State of Play at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that they did one that early in the year. I kept thinking it was like March or something, and I knew they did one in May, because May is where we found out about Astrobot and saw Concord for the first time. I'm thinking that Death Stranding 2 probably doesn't show up at something else until the Game Awards, just because of the Kojima and Keighley connection. So yeah, I don't really know what you're going to get there. And like third parties, I think like big third party games are also going to kind of hold off at this point.
Yeah.
You could get something like out of the blue, like maybe we get an update on Wolverine, because it's been 3 years since it was announced, and nay a peep since.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the time to show it though, because Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, that was part of my line of thinking. My other line of thinking is that because we've never had DLC announced for it, if we remember the leaked roadmap from the Insomniac hacks last year, there was there was a date for Venom, a Venom spinoff game for 2025.
Yeah, and
I'm
that
almost wondering if that gets announced here.
I bet
If
it does.
that, I've heard that that timeline was outdated. I think I read that somewhere earlier today. But I am curious to see what happens there. I mean, either way, the last show of the year doesn't really like. I think doing one the last week of September is just like kind of like people are like, I don't know. Like you've gone through all the major. At that point, you've had a PlayStation Presents, you've had Summer Game Fest, you've had the Xbox Showcase, you've done Gamescom, you've done partnered Gamescom streams. At that point, it's like you've still got the Game Awards coming. That's where all eyes are going to be. Like they'll still announce stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It's only a 30-minute thing, so I think people really need to keep expectations in check for it. Um, just like we always caution folks. And I think right now it's a waiting game for Sony and Microsoft to see what Nintendo announces with Switch 2.
Yeah,
They need to know like exactly what that thing's going to look like, what it's going to launch with, when it's going to launch before they start committing to dates for next year.
yeah,
Because the last thing you want to do, especially with a more niche title like Death Stranding, and that's not to say that Death Stranding isn't going to be popular. That's me saying that like it's not going to have the powerhouse of the other like PlayStation Studios games.
yeah,
Um, I'm the first one was so divisive in the way it was received. Like it sold well because of the Kojima name, but that was kind of it.
yeah. I definitely
Um,
feel like that did better in the PC realm than it did in the PlayStation realm.
it tapered off pretty quickly on PlayStation, from my understanding. It had very strong initial sales.
Yeah,
That game still sold like on PlayStation alone like 4 or 5 million copies.
yeah,
Um, but that was one of the last big games of that generation for PlayStation.
yeah,
Um, I'm wondering how Death Stranding 2 is going to be received. Just considering how divisive the first one could be. I remember the reviews being all over the place. Like, Greg Miller was like, man, this might be my game of the year. And, other outlets like I think GameSpot and IGN were giving it like a 6.
mhm,
So, from other people who were like Kojima diehards. So, I'm curious to see how that gets received. I want this trend of us remastering games that don't need to be remastered. I need that trend to end.
yeah.
That's one of the few things I think Microsoft has done really right this generation is smart delivery. Like the auto upgrading of games
Hmm.
has been such a good move for them.
It's been. I mean, it's been. I can't tell you how many times I've downloaded something on PlayStation and it just like you go to Xbox and it's like it just works and it runs
Yeah,
how it's supposed to, and then you're like, which version did I download? Why did I download this version? Why are there two separate versions? Why do I need to pay
right.
for this version when it asked me which version I wanted to down? It's
Like I feel like if I'm playing on a PlayStation 5, I shouldn't have the option to download a PS4 version. I
yeah.
feel like it should just be there. It should just be the PS5 version.
Hmm.
But I also like, and y'all know this. I've said for a long time, I don't like the idea of charging money for a game, like charging near full price for a game that is like the PS4 version is $10,
Hmm.
and oh, you want me to pay like 40 or $50 for slightly better graphics?
Hmm.
Like it was a little telling for me when the PS4 Pro presentation happened, and two of the games they were showing were The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima.
Hmm.
That was pretty telling for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not to say those aren't excellent games. It's just like these games came out 4 years ago. Like we're really using these as our examples here.
Yeah.
Like I would be showing, I'd be showing Ragnarok. I'd be pulling Astrobot from this year. I'd be pulling, and they did do it in like extended demos to press Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like I would be showing how those games look better.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I think it's so marginal on the surface right now. It's kind of like when we got the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. Like I didn't feel like they changed the game that much.
Yeah.
They were fine, but I personally did not buy either. So
Yeah.
I bought a 1S is what I bought.
I bought the One X, but I also was upgrading from the VCR box.
Yeah,
So
that's when I got the 1S. That's what I was doing. I upgraded from my launch day unit to that,
yeah.
and then we kept the Halo 5
Yeah.
Xbox in the bedroom until until the Series X and Series S came out, and then we traded both of those consoles in to get the new ones.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
I
speaking
will
of,
say the last thing on PlayStation before we get into Xbox talk, that 30th anniversary collection is awesome.
that's what I was just going to bring
I
up. I was
fucking
like,
love it.
you
I
know
fucking love
what's,
it.
you know what though? Did you know to get the PlayStation 5 Pro version of that, you have to buy the bundle
Yeah,
with everything in it?
and there's no way that's going to cost less than $1,000.
No. Dude, I mean the console itself costs 700 and then
Yeah,
you have a DualSense Edge and a Portal, like that's going to be like $1,200 for that bundle at least.
I will say, this is probably the moment where I will buy at least the regular controller.
I will buy the controller.
I'll probably get the controller. I've been wanting a DualSense Edge for a little while now. But I don't use my PlayStation except to play first party games
Mhm.
or like the occasional
Same.
PS Plus title. So I'm like, if I haven't pulled the trigger on an Elite controller for my Xbox yet, which I play pretty much every day,
Yeah.
why would I pull the trigger on it there? So I'm just hoping this controller is easier to get than the Astrobot one, which it won't be, but I'm hoping it will be. I'm happy that Sony has finally gotten into like the let's make some cool bomb ass controllers
Yeah.
race, because Xbox has kind of dominated that for a decade,
Yeah.
and I'm
I mean,
really happy we're seeing that.
the Concord one was cool looking. I really liked the
I thought the
controller.
Concorde one was interesting. I love the Astrobot one.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore the Astrobot one, and I think the classic one is cool. I love the box. The boxes all look like the original PlayStation boxes.
Mhm.
Big fan of that too. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a fan, and
It
it's
makes
really the only console you can do that with too.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Xbox is going to do something for the 25th anniversary.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because that's going to segue into a story that we have here.
Ooh, segue. Look at me.
We and Corey didn't even know I was going to do this to him. We have, assuming that I pulled up the correct link, did I close it out on accident? I may have
Uh-oh.
closed it out on accident.
Transition
Nope, here we
failed.
go.
Oh,
Here we go.
echoing.
So Jess Gordon over at Windows Central was reporting this. This is coming from Xbox themselves, from their licensing people. Xbox head of consumer products, John Friend. What a fucking name. John Friend. He was almost John Halo. Discussed a variety of topics pertaining to licensing and merchandising, which Xbox has been good at in recent years. They license out games IP to other companies in some cases, such as the upcoming MechWarrior 5 Clans, while also diving deeper into cross-media properties such as the Minecraft movie, Fallout TV show, and the Halo TV show. Friend confirmed that Halo alone has seen $1.8 billion in non-gaming consumer spend. That is wild. Non-gaming consumer spend. So that's like books, comics, action figures, those mega blocks they were selling for a while. That is 1.8 billion.
That just goes to show you how, like,
Important the brand is.
well, that, but just how almost in a bubble the hardcore gaming scene is, and like how we're so wrapped up in, this and this, that we just don't pay attention to the casual people who just like Halo and playing Halo, going home and playing Halo every night, or their kids are playing with the remote control warthogs or buying the toys or whatever, right? It just, because like, I mean, that's the story around Halo for the most part this generation has been pretty negative.
With good reason.
Yeah, but like,
I would even venture to say for the last decade, since Halo 5.
yeah, and it's just I don't know, man. It's nice to see some positive news around
Yeah.
the franchise for once. So
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last decade of Halo, you go all the way back to 2014, and you have the disaster of Master Chief Collection at launch,
yeah,
which took years to fix, by the way. Then Halo 5 comes out in 2015 to extremely lukewarm reviews.
mm-hmm.
Ooh, it is by a county mile the worst campaign in the series. Which, I mean, like, the worst Halo campaign is still better than like 3/4 of the other FPSs you're going to play in your life.
Yeah.
But it was not what we expected. Like, because I think, especially with time, I feel like Halo 4 has been received a lot better.
Yeah.
I remember when people were very upset that Ryan McCaffrey gave it like a 9.8 or something in his first review at IGN. And
Mhm.
it's like, dude, Halo 4 was awesome. Like, from a competitive standpoint, it sucked.
Yeah.
But for like doing what it needed to do, which was soft reboot the series and provide a casual multiplayer experience, I think it was a huge hit. I mean, it that game comes out in the last year of the 360 and still moves 15 million copies.
Yeah.
That's insane. No Halo has come close to it since. And then, you have the up and down of Halo 5 for 6 years. Infinite's in development, and we start getting the trailers. I mean, the first two trailers we got at E3 2019 or at 2018 and 2019. We got the first two teasers for it, and it was awesome. We were all so excited. We were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!"
Mhm.
And then the infamous Craig demo at Summer Showcase 2020,
Yeah.
resulting in a year and a half delay to this game, which is kind of like emblematic of Microsoft as a whole this generation.
Yep.
Um, Infinite comes out, has a great campaign, has a great multiplayer experience that is just bare bones, unfortunately. And multiplayer has kind of struggled ever since that initial like 3 month burst.
Mhm.
They've really struggled over there. So I'm hoping that we get back on the right track here. I want to finish up with what John says here, because there's some interesting hints, I think, to the 25th anniversary. He says, with these massive, fantastic franchises ranging from World of Warcraft, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, to Halo, Call of Duty, StarCraft, and much more, we're building plans for the 25th anniversary of Halo and Xbox. They have such a rich heritage and history, and these communities have been active for so long. You have to celebrate that. Um, Microsoft celebrated previous major milestones with fanfare, including the 20th anniversary event in 2021, which was where they opened up the free-to-play multiplayer servers for Halo Infinite, added 70 more backwards compatible games, and opened up a virtual Xbox artifact museum called the Vault. The 25th anniversary will fall on November 15th, 2026, which puts it firmly in range of a new generation of Xbox hardware, potentially. Um, and I mean, listen, I if what we've heard is correct, that they will have a traditional console and a Steam Deck competitor, I can't see them not releasing in 2026.
Yeah.
We've thought it for probably close to about a year now. In fact, even going all the way back to the Activision purchase documents, when we had that big document leak about a year ago. It was kind of hinting that that's where they were aiming for, was 2026. They wanted to get out, maybe a year early ahead of PlayStation, like last time, or
Yeah.
like the PS3 and 360, because it's becoming less and less about. We've talked about this. It's becoming less and less about power and more about just quality. Like, it's funny that the Switch has kind of forced everybody to reconsider. The Switch and the Steam Deck have kind of forced everybody to reconsider, like, if you want the highest end cutting edge shit, go build a PC.
Mhm.
Because, like, even the PS5 Pro is making that much more accessible or affordable to people. You can build a PC that can do a lot of that for not too much more. Um, we always have to remember, with consoles, everything is outdated the second it hits the market.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem. I would say that, because this is a topic I wanted to bring up with the World Championships for Infinite happening in about 2 weeks' time. I think they happen on the 4th through the 6th is when they're happening. I think it's fair to start wondering what's next for Halo,
Mhm.
because I think you have to announce a new Halo at next summer's showcase.
Yeah. I
That will
wonder.
be. We're coming up on 3 years of Halo Infinite now.
Yeah.
And I think now you have, if you are shifting to Unreal for the production of the franchise,
Uh-huh.
you have a lot more freedom with who you can bring in. They have to. We're gonna have to talk more about Microsoft Labor here in a few minutes, but they've got to change how they do it with contracting and everything else, because that was one of the big things holding back Halo Infinite and holding back some of these other games is you have proprietary engines for them. You can't bring people in on 18-month contracts. At the end of 18 months, they're just starting to get prolific in those engines,
Yeah.
and then you're letting them go.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. Like, that's a huge reason why Halo Infinite was struggling, and especially during a pandemic and everything else. And now everyone's competing for these resources. Like, they're letting these people go who are getting all this knowledge, and they're getting picked up by PlayStation, they're getting picked up by EA, by CD Projekt Red. Like, they're getting picked up by like all of your competitors.
Yeah.
And like, you're growing this talent, you're not retaining the talent is the problem.
Yeah.
um I would guess that if they announce this for 2026, I mean, you could have a hell of a launch lineup for that console. Because I think that's the thing is Microsoft wants to make sure they don't have a repeat of the Series X.
Yeah.
Launching with just pandemic or not, launching with only Gears Tactics was such a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you should have just taken the L and released in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
When it was the 20th anniversary, you could have put it out. You would have had Infinite, you would have had Horizon 5, Psychonauts, and Flight Sim all there on day one. Man, you would have that would have been a great launch lineup.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you're looking at next year, right? Like you could potentially be launching with E-Day. You could be launching.
we're looking 2 years ahead. 2 years ahead, 2026. Next year's
Right, 2
2029.
years. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I just wanted to make sure. So I
Yeah.
kind of had the same thought, like maybe they don't ship Halo with the next console
Mm-hmm.
because 2026 will be the 20th anniversary of Gears.
Yeah.
Why not go back to the
Gross.
beginning for
Really?
Gears? Yeah, I actually felt my back hurt a little bit saying that.
I hate that so much.
I think that the most logical way, if you were to look to the future, I think they really want to focus on just getting out the games that they already have announced.
Yeah.
Right now, they have so many games announced that there is no way these are all out before summer 2026.
No.
I'll say that right now. They have like 15 games announced, and you could put out one a month, and you would still be very hard pressed to get them all out in time.
Right.
Which is a good problem to have. It's just a shame it's taken this long. And also part of that's due to the fact that you now own Activision Blizzard, you now own Bethesda, things like that complicates this, right? Because now you have to account for Call of Duty every year. So you don't want to release Gears or Halo going up against it, but there's almost no way you launch a new console without an Infinity Ward Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we've heard points to an Infinity Ward Call of Duty being the 2026 game.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if maybe they would drop Halo 1, the Halo 1 remake that we heard rumors about earlier this year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
For the 25th anniversary, just do the campaign. Just drop the campaign.
Right.
And then drop the full-fledged next chapter with multiplayer in the spring.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I think you could have something there. And I don't think anybody would be too upset about like, oh, it's just Halo, the campaign. It's just the campaign for Halo, because if you want the multiplayer, go play Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, and if you want to sell like a physical copy of it, include the Master Chief Collection with it.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, why not at that point?
Yeah.
But in fact, funny enough, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know that Microsoft would do this because Halo is such a cash cow for them, as we've been discussing. What if you included Halo Combat Evolved Remake? If you you get a free code for it if you buy it in the first 90 days or something to celebrate the anniversary of both Xbox and Halo. What if you did an Astros Playroom situation or a Wii Sports situation
where it's bundled in?
Where it's just bundled in.
I mean, that would be great. That'd be cool.
Especially if you just do the campaign, why not?
Yeah.
That's automatically a top 3 pack-in of all time if you do that.
Right.
Like, again, your competition is Wii Sports and Astros Playroom, which, don't get me wrong, as far as pack-ins go, are fucking incredible. Why not? You know? I see no reason why you couldn't just drop it on Game Pass or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many things you could do here.
Hmm.
I think, if you look at what else you would put out there, because then that would allow you to have your multiplayer focus on Call of Duty. And if it is the next Infinity Ward one, you're gonna want that focus there.
Hmm.
And I would say, like, they're probably going to hold Forza Horizon until then. I cannot fathom Horizon 6 coming out next year. And the
No, I
only
would.
reason I say that is because Fable is probably your big fall title next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about Fable and Perfect Dark somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, I think next fall, like if I were a betting man, I would say your big three next fall are going to be Fable, Forza, and Fable, Forza, or not Forza, Fable, Gears, and Perfect Dark.
Hmm.
I just said Forza like 5 times after I said it wasn't going to come next year. I think at that point, like, why not hold that for your? It's going to be cross gen anyways. Why not just hold it for your next console?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, like, next year's already looking stacked. I mean, if you assume that those three are going to come out in the fall, you've got Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, and Towerborn all coming probably in the first half of the year. I would say. Um, that's by a county mile. That would be their best year in the history of the brand.
Hmm.
It's not even fucking close.
Yeah.
And you count things like that we don't know when they're coming, like Clockwork Revolution, State of Decay 3. I mean, I think State of Decay 3 slips out sometime next year, maybe late summer.
Yeah.
We have no idea what's happening. Contraband, as far as I'm concerned, is this generation's StarCraft Ghost. I think Blade and OD are both being saved for 2026,
I
whether they're for
forgot
the
about Contraband.
whether they're for the next console or not. And I mean, that's the thing is, like, Contraband, like, if you launch it next year, you better hope it gets out before
Yeah.
GTA. Outer Worlds 2 is probably spring 26 at this point. Which it's wild that we're getting games announced like 5-6 years out, and they like that's how long it takes for them to come out. That's absurd. That should never happen.
Right.
But like 2025 and 2026, regardless of a new console in 26, should be banger years.
Yeah.
That's not counting other things they're doing. Like we were just talking about how, like, remasters are such a plague, and then you've got them bringing PC games to console for the first time. The Age of Empires games especially,
Hmm.
and Age of Mythology was their first one that they've ever done in that series that was on both at the same time.
Yeah.
And Flight Sim is going to release on both at the same time, which has never happened before either. Like, these are big things. Like, those are games that don't have a huge audience on console, but, like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, they're quietly doing very good on PC this generation. Like, Aura debuted to some great reviews today. I think has an 80 on Metacritic.
Hmm.
And like 4X is a really real 4X, 5X, I forget which one it is really hard to break into also.
Yeah.
So, like, when you look at the things they're doing right, great. Like, I would build on the strength of that with a Steam Deck competitor.
Hmm.
Like, I don't even think you want it to be a competitor. You want to you if their idea really is to be able to run Steam and Itch and Epic and things like that on a home console and on a portable, that might be the only portable that can, like, really do it. If anything, it'd be more of a competitor to the ROG.
Hmm.
But to do that, you got to get mobile Windows has to get working and effectively because it's dog
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. It's not great.
Um,
Not great.
but yeah, there's Jez kind of speculates some things that you could do. Um, it would have a whole lot of fanfare if you were to release the consoles on the 25th anniversary. I think it would be fitting. And he says it here, and I agree with him. Xbox has really missed a lot of that fanfare that you get from, like, Sony and Nintendo when they do things like that.
Yeah.
Xbox really nailed it one time, and that was, I think, the 20th anniversary actually was really good.
Yeah. I mean, they
Dropping
released that.
Halo Infinite free to play that day was massive.
Yeah, and then that documentary and the controller and the Halo
The
console
Halo
release.
console, yeah, we already knew the Halo console was coming, because
Yeah.
my Halo console arrived right about that time.
Yeah.
The controller was awesome, even though I fought with Amazon over my controller. But they had a whole slate of, like, branded products there, and it's like that felt like something they kind of nailed for that specific day, as opposed to other things. Like, remember their whole thing in like 2020, like how we're going to build up the Series X, and then COVID happened and basically all those plans got canceled.
Yeah.
Like if they had plans,
Yeah.
even like we had a summer showcase that I think was fine for being put together on the fly. But you look at even games from that, like Avowed and Fable aren't even out yet, and they were stated to K3. Those three games were all announced there, still aren't out.
Yeah.
We just got Hellblade 2 this year. Like
Hmm.
it it's wild. But Jez speculates here on the merchandising side, since that's where John works. You could potentially get a custom Halo style next gen Xbox, which there's no way you don't do a special one for that if it's your 20th anniversary,
Yeah.
regardless. Um,
Gosh,
Perhaps
what
the
if
next
it's
Halo
like,
game will be ready by then.
man, what would be cool is if they did the nasty translucent green of the original Xbox, the
Oh my
Halo 2
god,
Xbox.
dude! If you do that,
Do that for the handheld and the console.
yeah, dude, I would spend a filthy amount of money.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But yeah, it's like you do things like that, and like, cool. This next year is the 20th anniversary of the 360. Like, I kind of wonder if they're gonna do anything there.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
there's plenty of things you can do. They miss these events that are fanfare-ish. Blizzard, apparently by all accounts, has been doing a lot of stuff for WoW's 20th anniversary this year, including skins in Overwatch and WoW. He speculates, what if you put a Master Chief skin in Overwatch or something. um and the final quote that Jez leaves us with from John Friend is: "Gaming is no longer just a pastime; it is an integral part of our lives that transcends traditional entertainment boundaries. As we look forward to what the future holds, our goal is to continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible, ensuring that every player, regardless of their background, feels a part of the incredible journey."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, at this point, I think I'd just settle for an Elite 3 controller announcement. But yeah, all that's cool too.
Yeah.
I do hope that we get some clarity on kind of the future of Xbox right now, because I noticed that there was that interview earlier this week with Sarah Bond where she was like, "Yeah, Phil and I didn't get along and didn't see we not thinking along. They didn't see eye to eye
Hmm.
um, at first." And she was like, "Yeah, I had to really interpret like what Phil means, not what he actually says," and that like they went and both got career coaching like together
Hmm.
and stuff like that to learn how to work better together. And like I think that's the sign of like for her that's a sign of a good leader. Like she's going and doing that. And I think in the realm of Phil, as much as we all like Phil, I think that kind of makes that a little bit cloudier,
Hmm.
because I don't think it's bad. I think it's great that they proactively did it. But of course, this story is coming out right on the heels of yet another round of layoffs at Microsoft. 3% of global workforce at Microsoft Gaming, 650 employees roughly.
Mm.
Um, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Um,
Not great.
they announced this at 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way.
Mhm. Yeah.
A lot of it was on the back end, corporate and supporting functions. Um, some impacts to other teams as they adapt to shifting priorities and manage the lifecycle and performance of games. There are no titles, devices, or experiences being canceled as a result of these layoffs, and no studios will be closed. I think it's really sad that we actually have to call that out now,
Mhm.
that like Phil specifically has to say that,
Yeah.
because after the absolute catastrophe of Arcane and Tango earlier this year,
Hmm.
just the fact you have to come out and say that means you fucked up pretty badly.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, you couldn't have found a way to save those studios? Like, and I was talking about this with a friend, and I feel like the reason that, like, I think old Xbox could have gotten away without a lot of these layoffs. But the fact is, they did the purchases of Bethesda and Activision Blizzard very close to each other. Within like 16 months of each other, they announced both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it was just Bethesda, I think they could have gotten away with a lot of this, right? But they spent
Yeah,
$70 billion.
they spent $70 billion on Activision Blizzard. This was going to happen.
Yeah.
And because now they're being scrutinized. Now they're not just a little fun side project at Microsoft. They are expected to bring in revenue. You own Call of Duty, you own World of Warcraft. We expect you to make money now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the frustrating part when I look at this is I feel like Phil and Sarah and them want games to be the priority, but they also know that they run a fucking business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really hard to be a creative and be able to be a successful business person. You can be both, but it's extremely difficult, especially when you become one of those platform directors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I think Nintendo is one of the exceptions to the rule because people are there for forever. But even them, like they have a lot of problems with crunch over in Japan and things like that, and underpaying their employees and things like that. Like, that's all been reported. And you look at Sony and Microsoft, and it's just everything is on fire constantly. But I guess I look at this and I'm just like, really, like you needed to lay off another 600 people, like.
Right.
This really feels like it's coming from the top. It's some kid with a spreadsheet who wants to save like 0.2 percentage points. And we've talked about it before with the layoffs, and I'm going to talk about it again. The biggest thing you're running into with this is all the knowledge you're losing because you're not replacing those workers.
Right.
If you are, you're replacing them with cheaper, inexperienced workers who don't. You are losing people who know entire engines at this point from this industry. That's been one of the big drawbacks of a lot of studios shifting to Unreal is unless you know Unreal, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the third round of layoffs Microsoft has done this year. Like they have laid off like 3,500 employees this year, I believe. It's some insane number because I know the first round was it 2000. They laid off 1,900 employees in January, which is roughly 8% of its workforce. Everyone was doing 8% at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year. 8% across all divisions at Xbox, Activision Blizzard, and ZeniMax. And then in May, they closed it down 3 studios, Arcane Austin, Tango, and AlphaDog, and took Roundhouse and merged it into the ESO team at ZeniMax Online. Um, I I don't I don't understand it. I don't get it. This is fucking bonkers.
Yeah, this is
Something needs to
something.
change, and unfortunately, I don't know when that's going to change because this is a Microsoft thing now. Now that you own, and again, it's because you own Call of Duty. It's because you own Activision Blizzard. I don't. I'm not going to say that this never would have happened. I mean, we're seeing it. We saw it at Sony too this year, right? And there's a lot of fear around what's the studio that made Concord? Firespite,
Uh, Firewalk.
Firewalk. There's 2 studios. They're very similarly named
Fire
that both
Sprite
were.
is the VR studio.
That's I always get them mixed up. But there's a lot of fears that that team is fucked.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll get folded into that unannounced team that Deviation. Remember that team that Sony announced they were working with to make a shooter, and then part of that team got folded into a new team that wasn't that I think is working on that Bungie game now.
So I believe Deviation closed all the way down. I think the only person who survived was the director of that studio, who is now helming up the former Bungie team.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know the exact specifics. That's also been a little murky.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just like across all of the big studios, this is a problem. EA has done this. 2K has done this. Oh God, we've talked about Embracer on how many shows this year?
Too many.
Like it keeps happening, and it's because CEOs and accountants want to just like save a percentage of a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a company that's as profitable as Microsoft, like what, third or fourth most profitable company in the world, like I don't think you need to be scrutinizing that much. But then again, your gaming division went and spent $78 billion in the span of about 16 months just on acquiring publishers,
Mm-hmm.
not counting any other Game Pass deals they struck. That's insane. That is certifiably insane to me.
Yeah.
In fact, we actually have on the subject of how much money gets spent. GameSpot published an article this week that Microsoft spends $1 billion annually to get third-party games on Game Pass. Bloomberg reports that Microsoft now spends $1 billion a year getting third-party games on the subscription service. That they offer flat fees of millions of dollars upfront to add titles from smaller publishers to Game Pass. And that was from an interview. That was an interview with Bloomberg that Dina Bass did. I believe that's where the Sarabon comments came from as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that Jesus Christ. The further that this goes down, it's like I really, 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 and as an Xbox fan, I really wish that the FTC and the CMA would have done their fucking jobs and said no to this. Like, both from a selfish and from a consumer standpoint, I am like, this was a horrible thing for the industry. I don't like consolidation on that level. I have rationalized the Bethesda one in my mind. I cannot in any way, shape, or form rationalize this one. I think this is just horrendous. But yeah, Jesus, 100 or $1 billion. That is insane. It's a really great profile on Sarah Bond too, by the way. I really love that. There's a few great quotes in here. No one can just see a situation and quickly grasp exactly what's going on faster than Sarah, says Chris Charla, the director of IT at Xbox. He also remembers how during Sarah's first GDC for Microsoft, she agreed to an impromptu spelunking expedition through San Francisco's underground tunnels, even though she was in heels. So, yeah, I think that I think Sarah is just going to be great for this brand, but holy shit, $1 billion. $1 billion. I was looking for the exact quote in here because it's such a long profile. Game Pass was a potentially fundamental change to Microsoft's operations model. Instead of seeking the big paydays that come with the release of a few blockbuster games, it would focus on making a steady revenue stream from its diverse library. There's a difference between managing a network effect and maximizing the value of a single game, says Bond. That meant taking the risk of undermining the company's existing business model, but she says if we don't do it, someone else will. Game Pass was a major adjustment for publishers. To sweeten the deal, Microsoft now spends $1 billion a year in getting third-party games on the subscription service. The largest has been more than enough to win over small publishers, to whom it offers flat fees of millions of dollars upfront to include their titles, along with a portion of subscription revenue and the promise of exposure they couldn't count on getting elsewhere. Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Larger publishers, which are well practiced in generating release day hype for their games, remain more skeptical, even as Game Pass subs have reached $34 million. Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of GTA and NBA 2K publisher Take-Two Interactive, speaks highly of Sarah, calling her thoughtful and warm, while also acknowledging she will not be dissuaded from accomplishing Microsoft's goals, even when they don't align with her own. Yeah, but it's the big CEOs that don't like this. With definitely
yeah,
it's like it's gonna happen. Couple of other interesting notes here. Um, As Xbox moves away from its sole focus on console gaming, it finds itself more at odds with a particularly vocal segment of its consumer base, such as earlier this year when they announced they would make versions of games previously exclusive to Xbox available on Switch and PlayStation. The move shouldn't have mattered to Xbox's own fans, who enjoyment of Sea of Thieves theoretically has little to do with whether somebody can also play it on our device, but many gamers seem to think buying a console is taking a side, not least those Xbox gamers who have stayed loyal despite its third place position. One Xbox blogger referred to the move away from exclusivity as a breach of trust and credibility. To Jez Corden, it felt like a slap in the face. Sony and Nintendo would not do that, he wrote.
I mean, so I actually think Sony's moving a little bit. They're walking that line in that direction, right? I mean, you look at Lego Horizon.
Yeah, Lego Horizon is the first game. Let's be totally clear. That is testing the waters.
Right. But I could, especially if they don't put out a handheld themselves, like in the next Nintendo console is powerful enough to run PS4 games, I could, if they've drained the well on Steam and and PS5 or PS4 or whatever. I don't know, man. I could see them dropping some older games on the Switch to see how they do. Like God of War or something. I could see them doing that, man. I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like we're entering a new phase of PlayStation a little bit, just 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 by sheer hunch, I guess.
Yeah. I wanted to read a little bit more towards the end of this what you call it, this profile. Sarah Bond acknowledges she's making decisions now that we're going to live with for the next decade in an industry where very few things seem certain. In the most recent quarter, global downloads of mobile games are down 6% year over year. After a long run as the top grossing game on Apple and Google devices, Candy Crush fell several spots. Two of Activision's mobile teams, including Warzone Mobile, were hit by September's layoffs. The Xbox Mobile Store, once slated for July, has also been delayed. At some point soon, Bond will have to make decisions about the thing that got Microsoft into gaming in the first place. In January, rumors circled around Xbox gamers that there would never be a new console. There's reason to question whether Microsoft would want to build another Xbox. Makers cannot count on profiting from hardware sales alone. Phil Spencer said in 2022 that they lose between $100 and $200 per sale. They have
Jeez.
also cut back on ambitions to build other hardware such as HoloLens and mobile devices. But Bond has said there will be a new Xbox, and the next generation of console will feature the largest technical leap you will have ever seen. And there's the flirtation with the idea of launching a handheld gaming device. The company has made no official commitment about this, though Spencer says he tasked Bond with building a more diverse hardware future for Xbox. He's taken every opportunity to say he loves portable gaming devices and says the company would just have to come up with something different from what's already on the market. Diving into the multi-year project of building a new console could seem like them backsliding into the model it hired Bond to break out of even before it's figured out how to make money from its new hybrid business of subscriptions and smartphone gaming. But the way she talks about a handheld device as another way to insert an Xbox specific experience into the lives of future gamers who have habits yet to be formed. For Xbox to succeed, Sarah says, it has to meet gamers wherever they are. I want people to think that no matter who you are, you can come to Xbox and find a game that it's for you. I think, we said this when she got promoted last year. Sarah is the breath of fresh air that they so desperately need over there.
The thing is she comes off as ambitious, which is
Yes.
something that you can't say for a lot of companies in general.
I think Phil was definitely ambitious, but like to a fault.
Right. Well, I mean, in a different way, I guess.
He was ambitious business wise. It feels like Sarah's trying to get things back to the way that they were during the like we all remember the 360 era when you had Peter Moore and the contrast of Peter Moore and Jay Allard out there, right? Like, think about how that was and how that delved into fucking Don Matrick by the end of the generation, right? Like, I love Phil, but he was part of those blunders. There's no getting away from that.
Here's the thing. We all love Phil.
Yeah.
I think, and this is nothing against Phil specifically, right? But I think the Xbox brand, I think his way of doing the Xbox thing, Xbox has kind of outgrown that, and it's time to get some fresh blood in there, which is Sarah, right? And so,
right.
I love Phil. He changed the way everybody thought about Xbox. He turned the ship around.
Yep.
And Sarah's there to be the new captain, right? So
we actually have a first party now.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was saying. Like, I think that Phil's ambitions were good. And that's why I'll always wonder if the Activision Blizzard purchase was something that he decided to do or something he was told to do.
I bet it was something he was told to do.
I'm about 75% on that I think he was told to do it. I do think that part of him saw that as a business, because it is important to remember Phil is a businessman first. That he saw that and went, holy shit, we have a great opportunity to score a bunch of points with people. We are getting rid of Bobby Kotick. We are getting him out of this industry. We are getting rid of the the predatory nature of a lot of Activision games, and well,
Yeah.
it's going to take several years to get that stuff filtered out. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, also, like, I wonder if he thought that was a good idea up to a certain price point, and then Microsoft said, "No, we're going all in on this."
Yeah, I think Phil had a walk away price. To be honest, I
Yeah.
think the walk away price was probably about half of what they paid, if not less. Because
Yeah.
I think that he looked at, I think you, because you can look at you can look at Bethesda and you can say that purchase has paid. If it hasn't paid for itself yet, it will very soon.
Hmm.
Like, you secured Starfield, you secured Indiana Jones. Like, yeah, you're going to put Indiana Jones on their devices, and hey,
I mean,
let's
you
face
got
it,
3 live
Starfield is
service games out
probably
of
going
that.
to PlayStation next year.
Yeah, but you also got 3 live service games out of that.
You got 3 live service games out of that. You have continued pumping resources into Elder Scrolls Online and 76, which I don't think 76 would still be around if it was Bethesda was still on their own.
I mean, you would question if Bethesda and most of Bethesda would be around if they were still on their own.
Yeah, they had the unexpected hit of Hi-Fi Rush, which, while it wasn't a financial hit, we got some Hi-Fi Rush stuff to talk about after this. Like, that may not have been the huge hit you were hoping for, but it was a critical hit, which you were really lacking for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
your smaller games have done so well, and I feel like if we can just get back to, like, gaming is supposed to be fun and not business driven, then man, you're gonna see gamers respond too.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like, at this point, you've been in third place you've been in third place since 2017. Let's be honest. You were in second place before that.
Yeah.
You've been in second place since the minute The Last of Us dropped
Hmm.
in 2013. Um,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I'm still a believer in Game Pass. Do I think Game Pass is going to be around for forever? No, I think in a couple of years that's probably going to go away. Maybe it gets a
I.
second win. If you release a handheld console, I think that's when you're going to see the subscriptions soar again.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something right now. I love the idea of being able to access my Game Pass library on the go. I mean, my
Hmm.
digital library, that's going to be the biggest thing. If you can make it to where I can play digital 360 games I've bought on the go, or digital OG Xbox games on the go,
Yeah.
oh my
My
God.
whole library, like the whole library,
Yeah.
just give me the whole Xbox experience in a handheld. Like,
Mhm.
that's all I would want
That's all any of us want. It seems so simple theoretically, right? Like,
Yeah.
and in 2 years, I would hope by the time in 2 years, you can cram the power of a Series S into a handheld device.
Well, the next Nintendo console is already supposedly at a higher than a Series S, from what I've been hearing.
Yeah, God, I need the specs for that to hurry up and come out. That's going to dictate so much of where this next handheld is going to go from Microsoft, because they got 2 years to adjust.
Right.
Like, I'll say it right now, it has to be more powerful than the Switch 2 at launch.
Yeah. I would say they have about a year to adjust, because they're going to have to go into
That's true. That's true.
manufacturing and
Well, I'm saying 2 years from when
yeah.
we'll probably get the specs for
Yeah.
Switch 2, which
Yeah.
I have a feeling is going to be
Soon.
as soon as this holiday season is over.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess before the holidays.
I personally, my guess is by the end of October, but I think they really would like to get those last few holiday sales out.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, at this point, like, yeah, I know the Switch is still selling well, but like, if you haven't bought one now, you might as well just wait, right?
Yeah.
It's still gonna sell like hotcakes among the people who don't follow this, like you and I.
Especially if you drop the Switch Lite to $99 once the new console comes out. Oh my gosh, dude. That thing's gonna fly off shelves for kids.
I low-key really wanted to get the Zelda Switch Lite just to have another Zelda console.
Man, as much as I love love Zelda, the consoles they released for that franchise are just ugly as hell.
Oh, the OLED Tears of the Kingdom is incredible. I love that thing. The Joy-Cons for it are so much better than the Zelda Joy-Cons they released a year or two earlier for
The Skyward Sword ones.
Yeah, those things, they looked cool, and then I got them and I was like, oh my God, these things are so ugly.
They don't match, and it
No,
really
they don't.
me.
It really bothers me.
Yeah.
But I love that they did the custom dock for it and everything else. Huge fan of that. Love the old the old DS units they used to. I think that's where they really shined, are the DS units.
Mm-hmm.
The DS units, and even remember the Game Boy SP. Um,
Yeah.
I love those. I'm reminded every time I go into my local retro shop because they have those units, which are hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
If I won the lottery, you wouldn't know, but there would be signs. They also have some of the vintage 360 consoles that I really really want. They have the Halo 4, they've got the R2D2 one, they've got the Gears the Gears 1S,
Mm-hmm.
which I've coveted for a very long
The
time.
red one or
Yep, the
yeah.
red one. Yep, the red one with the controller.
Mm-hmm.
God, that would just be talking about like simple wins, like the controller lab. Make it to where I can just make a Halo or a Gears controller as I wish.
Let me make one of those translucent blue ones without the rubber grips. Jesus Christ.
Let me make.
Why does every controller have to have the rubber grips, Josh? I'm allergic to them.
I have very sweaty palms, so I understand your plight, but I really love the rubber grips. I'm not gonna lie.
I understand that this is a very personal one-off problem.
Yeah.
But come
on. Well, if we're gonna be talking hardware, we might as well get to this. This is from WCCF Tech, from us about Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl, which is coming up. This actually was something I overlooked from Gamescom, but Microsoft is currently helping optimize that game because it is right now running at 35 frames on the Series S, and they are trying to get that frame rate up before launch. On the Series X, it is running at a steady 60 frames in performance mode, and then quality mode, of course, runs at 30 frames. Man, I'm so tired of seeing these stories, but you knew this was going to happen, and it's bothering me less and less when I see that like games are struggling with this, I guess, as opposed to like an entire play version of like Baldur's Gate 3 is such a unique situation because of what it generates. But that's the thing, like because people are like, oh well, it ran on Steam Deck perfectly fine. Yeah, you're not playing split screen on a Steam Deck. That's why.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it'll be just so much easier if you go to a handheld, because then you don't have to dictate the parity clause anymore.
Yeah.
You only have one home console to optimize for, and then guess what? If you can hit better specs than the Steam Deck that's currently on the market at the time, guess what? All your games are going to be deck verified. That's fantastic news.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't, man, just how fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Oh boy. I also have something here from I gotta find it because I accidentally closed out my my tab. But last Thursday, I think it was last Thursday, we got some news, or 10 days ago now, I guess. We got news about Annapurna closing down. The entire staff at Annapurna Interactive resigned.
Yeah. So that was interesting to read.
Yeah.
And kind of shocking. So it's funny because I forget who they said was taking over Annapurna Interactive, but they are, quote, hastily filling the roles that were vacated, was the quote I saw. And because they got a lot of contracts to fulfill, right? I mean,
yeah.
And I know a lot of people were kind of worried about the Remedy situation, but they signed with Annapurna Pictures.
Yeah,
so
two different divisions.
Different entity within the company. So, but still, that's just, I'm shocked because so many people love that company, right? I mean, there are a lot of people that just love everything that they put out. You know, I mean, our friend Stephanie loves Annapurna, like everything that Annapurna.
Everything they put out, I play.
Yeah.
Huge Game Pass deals with them too.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's massive. I I just couldn't believe that.
What
It
a
was Jesus.
what a gutsy move by everybody too, right? I mean, that's like a
I mean, they issued a statement. That team issued a statement saying we did not do this lightly.
yeah,
Like we tried and tried and tried. There were plans to spin them off originally, and that fell through. But like they are all like those 24 people are all determined to like stay together and do a new publishing firm.
yeah. I think the whoever was running Annapurna said that they are actively working to create a new publisher for small games.
Yeah,
So
it's there's so much shit going on. And you're losing one of the best indie publishers out there.
yeah,
Because now like who's going to want to sign with Annapurna if that team isn't there?
yeah,
So I'm interested to see what happens. I did have the double take of like, oh my god, didn't they just sign a deal with Remedy literally 2 weeks before? And they did. That's with pictures, obviously,
yeah,
which was not made apparent, at least in my understanding, right away, judging by how everybody rushed to get the clarification there.
yeah,
Um, I just God, what a big like I there's few indie publishers that I think we would suffer from losing more than Annapurna. Like Devolver, Raw Fury, and like Annapurna are kind of like the three
hmm
to me, like big uh indie publishers right now that like, hey, if I see them put out something, I'm probably gonna be interested in it.
yeah,
Like Annapurna in particular does a lot of like more like avant-garde experiences, I guess I would say.
yeah,
Um in terms of like what they choose to publish. Like, yeah, Devolver does some weird shit too, but man, Annapurna has some absolutely great stuff
yeah,
that they've published. Just got going all the way back to 2017, their first game that they published, What Remains of Edith Finch, which is still like maybe one of the best stories I've ever seen in a video game. Like just looking at a very brief list of the games that they have published since their inception 7 years ago. Tell me how many of these games that you have personally heard people yap about. What Remains of Edith Finch,
hmm
Flower, Donut County, Florence, Gone Home, Outer Wilds, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Kentucky Route Zero, Unfinished Swan, The Pathless, 12 Minutes, The Artful Escape, Solar Ash, Last Stop, Neon White, Stray, Cocoon, Thirsty Suitors, and then, of course, one of my big blunders of the year, Open Roads. And they've got like 8 other games
hmm
that they're set to publish, including a Blade Runner game.
hmm
What the fuck, guy? Mixtape is coming out next year, which I was really excited about coming out of the Xbox conference this year.
yeah,
Like, just what the fuck? They're actually, in fact, they're even developing the Blade Runner game in house.
yeah,
Their first ever game they were developing.
hmm
So yeah, not not great. There is a whole long story about what happened there, but Jesus Christ, I hmm,
yeah,
there's a lot going on right now over there. Um, in fact, apparently, according to Jason Schreier and IGN also reported on us, Rebecca Valentine. We love Rebecca. Um, Remedy publicly announced its split with Annapurna Pictures or public announced its deal, not split, with Annapurna Pictures in August 2024. Interactive staff were confused and tried to approach the CEO about their previously proposed split, but she did not join those negotiations, instead taking more control in Annapurna Interactive. At the start of September, the team submitted a co-resignation letter. Following week, Jason Schreier reported the entire staff of 25 had resigned. Following these resignations, the original CEO, who was it? Hector Sanchez came back to head it, to head Interactive, and Annapurna Pictures staff is going to help like oversee their publishing deals or something. Um, just absolutely ridiculous. No, absolutely nobody knows what's going on with the Blade Runner team, because the Blade Runner game, their entire development team resigned as part of this, which I did not initially realize.
Mm-hmm.
So what the fuck is happening over here?
Yeah.
I do not understand what is happening here. I was so excited that this game was coming too.
Yeah. I wonder what's going to
Just
happen.
what a fucking catastrophe, man. I I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. This is absolutely bonkers.
It's not great. Not great. Um, I feel
Not great, Bob.
I feel for everybody that this is affecting, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
so man, rough times. Rough.
Yeah. Very, very rough times. Speaking of rough times, God, can't believe we gotta talk about this now, too. Um Krafton's CEO has come out and says we do not think Hi-Fi Rush 2 is going to make us money. And says that the acquisition of Tango is all about legacy. This was an article on GameDeveloper.com. Um, we want to maintain their legacy, says Shanghan Kim. Although they did not have a big success in their games, we saw many creatives worth pursuing. That's why we wanted to work with their organization. They said they want to acquire as many people as possible from Tango to continue their legacy. Because Hi-Fi Rush fans really want to see sequels, we negotiated with Tango's parent company Microsoft to acquire the IP as well. The sudden shutdown of Tango Gameworks left employees anxious, which pushed Kraft on to complete the deal as soon as, or is pushing them to complete the deal as soon as possible. We want to make that sure that deal happens fast to minimize the gap in their career. And says that the scale and complexity of a conglomerate like Microsoft meant it was difficult to move quickly, but it's noted that Xbox was open to the sale of both the studio and its IP. If we were to acquire all IPs, I think it's going to complicate the deal too much. We're a pretty big company, but Microsoft is very complicated. We want to help them continue developing their games, but especially Hi-Fi Rush. We think that when we think about our fans, I think what they really care about are sequels to Hi-Fi Rush. The acquisition is still being finalized, and that prevents them from saying how much they have spent on the studio. They did, however, describe the purchase as not too expensive but not too cheap either. Stephen Titille's GameFile previously reported that Krafton has brought over 50 employees from Tango, representing about half of the development team as it existed under Microsoft. We're aiming for a minimum of 100 people. We have to scale the studio to around that size. That's a minimum requirement to continue developing this franchise. Or maybe they even need an even bigger team. We haven't decided on, but we don't plan to reduce the size of their team at this time. They have to work on new projects as well, so there's a great possibility the team will scale up even further. And as for going on, Krafton explains that they hope to acquire more studios similar to this smaller studios and whatnot. When pressed on whether Hi-Fi Rush was a commercial success for Microsoft, Kim says he doesn't know exactly how much the game earned, but when considering production costs, he feels it might not have delivered a substantial return, which we all kind of knew, unfortunately. Which makes the Aaron Greenberg comments even more polarizing, swearing that it was a financial success for them and they were happy with its performance. Like, yeah, you were happy with a game that once, even after you brought it to PlayStation, like still failed to crack like 3 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was at right around 2 million players. I don't even know if it was 2 million sales, 2 million players before going to PlayStation. So, yeah. And that game, like, you think about that game, like, they had to license the music for it, which I'm sure did not come cheap. Like, and that's the sad part. That game's eventually going to get delisted because of the music. Like, what the fuck, man?
Well, they have that streamer mode, which has their generic track, so like they could just strip the licensed tracks. To be fair,
They can, but I feel like that adds so much to the game. Like, for me at least. I don't. That's just frustrating. I do think that the last The last two things that Kim says here are pretty poignant. Just recoup the production cost, please, is what I say. But that in itself is a pretty big challenge. If you try doing that, you might actually land a big hit. I don't trust people who say, "Oh, this is going to be a hit." I want someone who can try something new. The big hit shouldn't be your goal. If you think about it that way, Hi-Fi Rush may have brought in a little bit of a minus in terms of the financials, but it's a team that should be encouraged to create something new and continue their journey. We want to have more teams like that under our umbrella at Crafton. I can't help but agree with that. I think it's absolutely insane that that's the studio you chose to cut. Like of all your teams, like, oh, I'm never an advocate for any layoffs, but like you needed to cut 100 people. Like you couldn't have cut like, I don't know, 100 people at King. Like, really? Your financials were in that dire of straits? Like, Candy Crush and Call of Duty aren't making you enough money hand over fist to save a studio like Hi-Fi Rush or like Tango? And like, I would kill to know what Shinji Mikami thinks about all this. Because he left thinking that the studio was in safe hands, especially with Hi-Fi Rush
Mm-hmm.
in development, thinking, oh, that's probably what more Microsoft wants anyways, but they can do that and they can do horror games. And nope, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So what a fucking disaster.
Yeah, this is yeah. Yikes. Big ol' yikes.
Yeah. The revenue from everything I've seen was not that great. So like for Krafton, this will be like a blip on their radar.
Mm-hmm.
They make so much money from PUBG still overseas. Like absolutely insane. So I do think that's interesting though that it sounds like Microsoft is holding on to Ghostwire Tokyo and Evil Within
Mm-hmm.
IPs. I have no idea what for,
I mean,
but
the Evil Within could potentially be something for them. Ghostwire Tokyo, I don't really see them revisiting, but Evil Within, like you own a horror franchise now, so that's like probably something that they can just add to the portfolio, right? I mean,
I think my only problem with Evil Within is if Shinji Mikami and John Johannes aren't going to be involved, I don't know that I want to play it. They had such an input on that game, and like I mean that was Mikami's baby. I just don't know that I really care without them there. Like is that like too blunt? Is that too rude?
no.
I just and I look at Microsoft Studios and I'm like, who
I,
who would even go make this?
I mean, there aren't really, like, you look at all these studios' specialties, right? There aren't really any. They don't have a studio that does horror, right? I
They
mean,
don't, and I mean, like, I know that like a team can do that, but the problem is you have to hire a team specifically to do that. You can't have another Arcane Austin Redfall situation. You have to actively avoid that. So now you probably have to start a studio from scratch to do this. At
mhm.
that point, why not just keep the fucking studio? I just can't believe that. Or like, oh, if you were always going to keep these IPs, like, why not keep Arcane Austin open and rebrand them into doing that? They at least have some experience. Like Prey, I would argue,
This,
has a lot of horror elements to it. Actually,
you know what this feels like is an IP that they would farm out to a second party, like Bloober Team or something down the
oh
line.
god,
You know,
I'd just rather never see it again. At that point, I'm going to be completely honest.
yeah. This is a portfolio filler, in my opinion. We have a horror game. We have a cultural game in Tokyo, Ghostwire Tokyo. These are portfolio fillers, and they that's something they can point to later down the road, if they ever try to sell off IP, or they try to, 20 years from now they try to sell off some of these studios or something, right? So I don't know. It's weird, especially Ghostwire Tokyo, but I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just weird.
No, it, and I've seen people say this like, well, Microsoft probably never wanted to buy them in the first place. They only wanted Bethesda, but they had to buy all of ZeniMax, and I don't think that's true at all.
Hmm.
I'm going to just categorically say that that's false. Like you look at how valuable, I would argue that, yes, in terms of money, Activision Blizzard was bigger, but in terms of overall revenue it would bring, but in terms of like creatives, in terms of the studios, and things like that, I still think the Bethesda purchase was the better one, because you got Bethesda, you got ZeniMax, you got Arcane, you had Tango, you had oh my god, now I'm blanking on their name. The Wolfenstein team, Indiana
Machine
Jones
games.
Machine Game. Oh my god, I kept trying to call them Gunslinger in my mind, and I'm fucking tired.
Yeah.
Uh, but like you got all those studios, and like, man, I just can't help but think that if you hadn't done, if you it keeps coming, I keep coming back to this. If you hadn't bought fucking Activision, these studios probably could have endured having a game like Redfall release.
Yeah.
I think the writing was on the wall for Arcane Austin at that point. Like at that point, you haven't put out a game since 2012 that was profitable.
Hmm.
It's like Prey, yes, Prey's become beloved, but a lot of people didn't play it until they were getting it on like the 3.99 Steam sales,
Right.
or until it hit Game Pass or PS Plus. Like it was on every
Yeah.
subscription service under the
It was,
sun there.
yeah, it was also part of that Arcane anniversary collection with like
Forgot about that. I'm gonna be
everything.
honest. Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that they did an Arcane collection and a Wolfenstein one, I think, too.
Yeah, the alternate history collection.
Jesus Christ.
God.
So like I think the problem for Arcane was there, and I don't think it was anything Arcane necessarily did. It's we've talked about it before, but like that's an instance where I think Phil really needed to step in.
Hmm.
And when he went and looked at those studios and been like, "Do you guys actually really want to be working on this? Like, don't bullshit me. Do you actually want to work on this or not? Because if you don't, we're going to cancel it now and let you build what you want to build."
Right.
I think the problem was they saw something was in production, knew that they were lacking on games, and said, "Fuck it, we need it.
Yeah.
We gotta release this in a couple of years." And it got delayed a full year. Think about what that game would have looked like if it hadn't been delayed by a year.
Right.
Like it would have been even worse. So
Yeah.
I look at your justification was you rolled Roundhouse, which is geographically not near your other studios, into ZeniMax, but you couldn't roll Arcane Austin into Bethesda Austin? If that's the logic we're using, there were so many mixed signals around that. Like that's why the April layoffs still really don't sit well with me when I think about that.
Yeah.
Because your casualties were a studio that made arguably one of the best games of 2023,
Hmm.
and certainly the best new IP of the generation for Xbox. Like it's not even a question.
Yeah.
It's one of like two or three new IPs. Like I think your competitions are like Grounded and Pentiment, and like Pentiment, I don't think it's going to be a franchise. Grounded clearly was a hit for them.
Yeah.
So like in terms of money, yeah, Grounded was better, but in terms of like actual game, like it's Hi-Fi Rush all the way.
Yeah.
It was that Jet Set Radio Future like successor that we all wanted in a lot of ways. So I mean, I wish the absolute best to Tango. I don't know how Krafton is going to be as a parent company, but man, you deserve to be with someone who actually appreciates the talent and the games that you guys can bring to the table. That was their breakout hit too. Like I would argue the Evil Within games were like they were fine. They were big amongst horror aficionados, but like not the general public. And then like I think the first one was bigger than number two for sure, because it was like, oh, it's the return of Shinji Mikami to horror and this and that. And then like Ghostwire Tokyo, we all kind of know how Ghostwire Tokyo went. It was no Deathloop,
Hmm.
which itself was no Dishonored. So I keep thinking like if these games had been marketed a little bit better by Microsoft, would we be having a different conversation right now? And that's what I keep coming back to. Like we've said it so many times, and I don't want this to be like, oh, we gotta squeeze in, bashing him every single show we do. But God, please, for the love of Jesus, put somebody else in charge other than Aaron Greenberg. Like y'all's marketing is so dog shit. Like your games are never promoted. Yeah, I see these elaborate like live action commercials that don't show gameplay. People want gameplay.
Yeah.
They want to see gameplay. We want to see like we want that. We want dev diaries. Like we want things like this, and y'all just seem to refuse to do any of it. Like I'm really scared about the marketing or lack thereof for Indiana Jones. It comes out in December and we've seen nothing. Aura dropped today. I did not know Aura reviews were dropping today. I had no idea. Vessel of Hatred comes out in 3 weeks, and I've seen like nothing about it in the outside of Gamescom. Basically,
Right.
haven't seen like anything being pushed for it.
You think they're gonna show anything at Tokyo Game Show on Diablo?
No,
I don't either.
because that's our last story. I'm glad you said that. Tokyo Game Show speculation. This is happening on the early in the morning on the 26th.
Mm-hmm.
On Thursday morning, about 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific is when this is airing.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what's going to be there.
Yeah.
I could not begin to tell you what I think is going to be there. Um,
I mean,
do we want to guess?
I'm still of the mind. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think, but I still think Final Fantasy 16 and the Pixel remasters are coming, and possibly Forspoken.
I think the Pixel remasters is about all I'm going to let myself get excited for right here. I would love for 16 to happen, considering it just came to PC. But at that point, why wouldn't you just release it on Xbox at the same time?
Yeah,
That just feels silly to me.
yeah,
But I don't know. Metaphor comes out in 3 weeks. You'll get something for Metaphor there.
yeah.
Um, I do wonder if we'll get a trailer for. They'll probably show a trailer for that new Yakuza spinoff that just got announced.
Oh, the pirate one.
Yeah, which I'm actually like really interested in.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy.
I think it's fucking wild. Um, I'm trying to think of like what else would be there. Like they'll probably tout that they're doing some localization stuff, which would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Um, I just can't. But man, Xbox seems like they're really pushing this year, and that
yeah. I'm
I'm
one.
trying not to get myself excited for this because I let myself get excited. I think it was it last year or the year before for TGS for Xbox, and I was just like, oh, this. I mean, and listen, this is going to be aimed more towards the Japanese and Korean markets. Let's be abundantly clear on that front.
Right.
I
I
expect
wonder.
maybe the Liza P DLC is there.
Yeah,
That was a
I mean
huge game for
that.
them on Game Pass, and the director just teased with a piece of art and some music from it.
Hmm. You know what else could be shown there is another like Genshin Impact update thing because that's coming to Xbox
I
real
would
soon.
expect Genshin Impact to be. In fact, I'm actually really surprised that wasn't saved for this, frankly.
Yeah,
Considering they're doing the McDonald's promo currently. I'm a little
yeah,
surprised that wasn't saved until now.
yeah,
I don't expect anything like massive. I would expect like big announcements to come from like the publishers doing their own stuff. I feel like Sega or Atlas might have something here. Like there's been a lot of rumors about Persona 1 and 2 getting a remaster, like not a full remake like 3 got, but a remaster to at least get them onto current platforms. Maybe that gets announced here.
yeah. Like a Persona Origins collection type
Yeah,
thing.
I promise you like I saw people getting really hopeful for Persona 6. I guarantee you that's not here. That is a game awards or a summer showcase thing if Xbox gets a hold of it. Part of me wonders if Kojima's going to be there because he is doing a
For
presentation for Death Stranding 2,
mhm.
its own separate presentation. Maybe Death Stranding 1 comes to Xbox. 505
Maybe
technical
or
505
you.
technically owns the rights, so
Well, they have the publishing rights on PC,
yeah,
so
that's why I'm kind of wondering
maybe.
if maybe because I believe you can buy it through the Xbox store on PC. Funny enough.
Yeah, because it was on Game Pass at one time, PC Game Pass.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I remember that. So I
it,
maybe they have something that you
you don't
know,
you don't think we'd get anything for OD yet, do you? More
no,
information than that.
no. I think that again, like that's why I'm like trying not to expect anything big because I think any big announcement would be geared towards, you know, showing it at something like Game Awards or Summer Showcase or Gamescom or whatever. Like I'm not expecting the world here. Um if it doesn't get shown at the state of play, I could see a world in which the next Metal Gear collection gets announced at this.
Well, the thing is Konami just said that they weren't announcing anything. They acknowledge that it exists, but they aren't going to say anything about what's on it or when it's coming. They just said that like a couple days ago because we covered it on POW Block. Um,
I mean, we've also heard people say that and then turn around and announce something at an event like a week later.
that's fair.
I'm playing
I
devil's
always
advocate here. I'm playing devil's
no,
advocate
I know
because I
you are.
think that would be big. Kojima's been on stage. Metal Gear's been on the Xbox stage before. Never forget when Metal Gear Solid 5 got revealed there and people lost their absolute shit over it.
Yeah,
Being so fucking mad that Metal Gear was on an Xbox stage. I think it would be cosmically hilarious to announce the next Metal Gear collection and Metal Gear Solid 4 be a part of that and it get
yeah,
announced on an Xbox stage. That would be very funny to me. But put that in the pipe dream slot. I don't think it's actually going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe there's another Forza DLC coming. I saw people being like, "Oh, what if Forza Horizon Japan gets announced?" And I just again, I do think Japan is a locale they will do for Horizon, but I think that it's going to be the next Forza game. They're not going to announce a Forza game at 5 o'clock in the morning when an American audience is not paying attention. They're just not going to do that. They want all eyes on it. When they announce something in probably their most profitable franchise, they're going to want American eyes on it.
yeah,
That's my only takeaway there. So
yeah.
I don't know. I the pixel remasters are probably the thing that I would say like would be like the wow factor. Maybe Liza P DLC. Um, I don't know.
I just don't even know what else there could possibly be. You
I
know,
don't either. Like barring something completely out of left field.
yeah,
Team Sonic is making an announcement tomorrow morning.
yeah.
Today, if you're listening to this on Tuesday. Yeah, I can't really. I mean, maybe they've got the issues with Black Wukong fixed, and that gets announced for Xbox. I don't
Maybe,
know. Maybe.
maybe.
I would expect little to no first party announcements, though. I will be completely clear on that. I feel again, if they do announce things, I feel like it's going to be localization for that. I don't think it's
Yeah,
going to be anything actually like big,
yeah.
and that's okay.
I mean, it's fine, right? I mean, the other rumor that I saw floating around a little bit was like a 13 remastered trilogy floating around somewhere. Final
I
Fantasy
saw that
13.
too.
I don't know how real that is. I just saw it floating around a couple times, but that would be interesting. More from like a more from a PlayStation and a Switch perspective than a Xbox perspective because you can already play that at 4K 60 on Xbox with the enhancements, right? But
Hmm.
still, I don't know what else you have here.
Maybe Japanese games that just haven't come to Xbox yet.
Sure,
Could be a
yeah,
thing. That would be
yeah.
the only other thing that I would be thinking
I
about.
mean, the only other series I could think of, Josh, big series. Maybe Xbox went out and sought out the Trails series. That's a
Ooh.
reach, though. That is a reach by me, but I know that series is becoming incredibly popular, and it is not on Xbox,
Yeah.
especially with that
Yeah.
remake of the first game coming out.
Yeah, I would expect that I think like I do think Square will have a presence there no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is where I say if you're not interested in Japanese games or updates to like localization, keep your expectations firmly in check
Mm-hmm.
because I do not expect much beyond that. Don't expect like, oh, new Avowed footage or oh, here's an update on South of Midnight. Like you're not getting that. Like maybe you get an indie trailer because that's 3 months out and they're not going to miss an opportunity to promote that. But I say that only because indie is a worldwide known IP. I have no idea how that plays to the Asian market, frankly, but like maybe they just want to, reconfirm that that's coming. It's going to be your last chance to show up before it comes out at a major event. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
I wonder.
we'll
I
talk about
think
that.
I do think some of these moves are being made in advance though, because if they are going to put a handheld out, obviously Japan is going to be the place that handhelds thrive, right? So I don't know if you want to make these moves in advance for that potential if you're going to try one more time in Japan, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it's just stones out there to see if anything sticks. I'm just talking in circles now, but uh I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I want to know.
I think you hit the. I think the like just kind of wrap up on this topic. I think you hit it right there on the head, where you said that if you really are planning a handheld device, you have to get Japanese developers on board now with the Xbox brand,
Yeah.
because a handheld is the only hope you have of gaining a foothold in Japan and Korea.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, just with their infrastructure, I mean, because we've even seen like PlayStation really struggle over there this generation.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
the box is bigger than most of their apartments. Of course it is.
I mean, you're not lying.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like the Switch, on the other hand, like Nintendo, I feel like I kind of been on a home console decline over there post GameCube and post Wii.
Yeah.
And then I mean, the Switch, of course, just kind of revolutionized everything. But we've seen more. I feel like we saw more Japanese support with the Switch than we did elsewhere. I mean, like, come on, Persona finally came to the Switch. It was on the 3DS and on the DS, but it had never come to the Wii or Wii U or anything like that, like Shin Megami Tensei had. But I still remember when they announced the Switch, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was one of the first things they announced.
Hmm.
It was one of the first third-party games announced at that specific show. And that
Hmm.
was instantly the moment. I remember I was watching it with our friend Ray, and we were both like, oh, they're taking Japan really seriously this time. If
Hmm.
they've secured that as an exclusive.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, and I think that, I think Xbox is getting there. Like, they specifically, them getting Sega back on board with Atlas and with RGG has been such a huge deal for them,
Yeah.
because those games have now exploded on Game Pass. All of those
Yeah.
games instantly become super played on Game Pass. In fact, I would actually say, I think that RGG will announce, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming to Game Pass here.
Yeah, that would make
I
sense.
would virtually guarantee that.
You know what else would make sense now that we're on the Sega train is all their retro revivals being announced here.
Retro revivals, I could see Sonic Frontiers get announced as coming. It's been out for almost a year.
Yeah.
I could see that coming over. Like I said, like
And that Sonic.
Microsoft and Sega also had that weird strategic technology partnership or something.
Right. I forgot about that.
I forget about that
There's
too.
Super Game.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to have any like new game announcements, but as far as like announcing some things coming to Game Pass, I could see that happening. Um, I'm interested to see what happens, but I do love this train of thought that you've got me on now, of you're trying to get the Japanese developers on. And I think if people see, especially with Square coming back into the fold now, I think these smaller, Japanese and Korean studios are going to be like, oh, well, Square is going over there, and, Genshin is finally going to Xbox. And, we've seen the Atlas that, the effect that Atlas and RGG have had. Like, hey, maybe there's room for us too. I do think that the closure of Tango definitely is going to spook some of them, though. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't even want to support your own studio in our country,
Yeah.
and people would be right to be skeptical about that.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I certainly would be thinking that too. To be fair,
Yeah, you would think that, but also like Microsoft doesn't own any of these companies, and
Yeah.
they just, if Microsoft throws enough money at them
I,
for
but
Game
I
Pass
think like
deals.
for me, I think I come at it from like you didn't want to support your employees in our country. Like,
Right.
why should we partner with you if you only want to foster your own development in our country?
Right.
So
Yeah. Man, what if this is very just hypothetical dream, whatever you want to call it? What if they announce the handheld here?
oh my dude, if you announce a fucking now you could announce that it's like that you're actively prototyping it or something like that, but I still feel like that is like the worst kept secret in the industry that they're developing one.
Right.
I
I mean, even if it was just a render of what it would look like, no
I would
specs or
I would
anything.
love that. It just I feel like TGS would not be a bad place. I want to preface what I'm going to say with that. But if you're going to do that, I would do it next year when you're closer to launch.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
my
doing
thing
it
is
2 years out is a disaster waiting to happen.
yeah, my thing is I think you need to announce it before PlayStation announces theirs. I think you
I
have
do
to.
think that. I feel like for me, I would announce it next summer.
Yeah.
If you're not going to release till fall 26, I think you need to announce next year because then you can pull like a 1X type thing where you get developers talking about it on video. Like, hey, we really believe in like this two SKU approach. You remember when they did the 1X announcement and Todd Howard was a part of it?
Hmm.
And we were all like, oh my God, like, they're talking about like VR application and things like that, like just the way that it made your mind kind of spin. And then we didn't get it for like another year and a half. They were calling it what were the project what was it at the time?
Oh God, I don't remember what it was called. Project
I keep trying to say Spark, but that was a game.
Scorpio.
Scorpio, that's what it was. Project Scorpio. Like, I feel like next summer would be when I would debut the render for that, because then you can have a whole year of just reminding people at every fucking event this thing is coming.
Yeah.
You have two TGSs to really push it to the Japanese audience. You announce it 2 years out, and I think people are like, okay, so when the fuck can I buy this? Oh, it's not coming out for another couple of years? Okay, well, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I think hardware, they're always going to focus on the US and the UK first when it comes to hardware, unfortunately. And a
Yeah.
handheld very easily, very rapidly could change that.
Yeah. I
But
I was I just thought,
a
if you,
pie in the sky announcement, that would be pretty fucking cool to see, though.
yeah. I mean, that would be pretty ballsy too to like this is
Yeah,
definitely your last place territory. It's a place you have yet to gain a foothold in any capacity. Like that would be so ballsy to do that in Japan at Tokyo Game Show. I'm just, Sarah Phil, you can have that one for free. I would
yeah.
say Aaron Greenberg, but he's too busy promoting controllers you can't buy.
He's
So
too busy promoting a Luka Doncic Xbox that I can't buy.
I saw a really funny meme, by the way, side tangent of Xbox's marketing team does an awesome job of marketing things you can't buy and a shitty job of marketing things that you can.
Jesus Christ.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess, but also the controllers. Every week there's like a new controller somewhere.
It's true.
Oh,
I did like that they had to issue a Phil specifically put out a stopgap on social media for the day because basically the internal memo was we are not having a repeat of the fire flame controller that got announced as we were announcing the closure of Arcane and Tango. Like, we are not doing this again.
hmm.
Just Jesus Christ. So I think that's gonna about do it for us today, man.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to see what's at Tokyo Game Show. I think I'm intrigued to say the least. I'm intrigued
Yeah.
about the state of play tomorrow. I'm intrigued by, you know, 2 weeks after Xbox and PlayStation have their exciting news, Nintendo's just going to whip out a 30-second trailer of their new console. Like,
I actually do think that would be about the most Nintendo thing possible.
Yeah, they'll launch a trailer at like 5 o'clock in the morning. That's like 30 seconds of someone playing it on the plane or something. Maybe another Skyrim trailer like this one.
Just it just everything fades to black, and then you're finally awake.
Yeah.
Jesus
Oh,
Lord.
jeez. Anyways, but Josh, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. You can find us on your podcast service of choice, and on YouTube you can check out Tower Casuals, our Destiny podcast. Josh, thank you for your time as always. Where can we find you?
For now, you can still find me on Twitter, Josh_Finn.
2 N's.
2 N's.
You can find me at I'm Corey HD on all them socials. You can check out all of our stuff. We have some cool things coming up, so you can check that out. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.